Hello pilots of the internet and welcome to Foldable Flight. In this video I'm going to be teaching you how to fold Lancer, which is just simply one of the coolest paper airplanes you are ever going to fold. It flies 150 feet and it looks absolutely amazing. So really quickly before we get to that, let me tell you this. If you're watching this video on November 20th, the day it's published, then this is your last chance to make your submissions to the Foldable Flight Paper Airplane Designers Contest. Submissions are due by 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, so if you want to enter and you haven't, you better get on it. And just one more thing to note, my book does make an excellent gift, so if you are shopping for yourself or someone else this season, consider adding Foldable Flight's incredible paper airplanes to your list. And if you're in the United States, consider buying from foldableflight.com. It is available on Amazon, but of course Amazon takes a cut out of every sale, so it would mean a lot to me if you shop from my website. If you're international, Amazon's your only option, shop away. And with that, let's get to the video. Lancer is an absolutely amazing paper airplane, and as you can see, it's just got a beautiful proportion to it. These prongs at the front of the plane, its long, slender shape, the way the wings flare out in the back, I am in love with this design. Now, I've used some pretty cool paper here, but this is origami paper that I don't necessarily expect you to have. And as with most of my planes, I have designed a template which my patrons can use, and I am in love with this too. I think it turned out so well. So for just $4 a month, you can get access to this template, as well as over 50 others. It's an ever-growing library. So head over to patreon.com/foldableflight if that interests you. Now, one thing that's important to note, fair warning to you all, this plane is very hard to fold. So if you like these two prongs at the front of the plane, you think that's a cool design feature, but this plane is too hard for you, well, I mentioned my book earlier. There are actually two planes in my book called Sentry and Spectre that share that characteristic while being quite a bit easier to fold. So if you get into this video, it's too tough for you, consider getting the book and you can fold these planes. And with that, let's see the plane in flight and then I'll teach you how to fold it. All you will need in order to fold this plane is a square sheet of paper. You can cut down your A4 or 8.5 by 11 sheet into a square format, and that's fine, but I don't recommend going any smaller than that. I also recommend thin paper, and if you have it, I would recommend foil paper. Foil paper, I think, is the absolute best stuff for this plane. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to get exactly the paper I'm using, but the creases are held really sharply with foil paper, which helps with the front of the plane locking together. Now, you can use other paper, that's fine. This is just the best stuff. Another thing to mention is that this is a two-color design, so both sides of the paper show in the finished model. If you're using two-color paper, the side that you start with face up will be this central section, and the side you start with face down will be the front and back. And with all of that said, let's begin by folding the right edge to the left edge. Now I'll go ahead and open that up so that this is a mountain crease in the center, and fold your top edge to the bottom edge. You're not creasing all the way across though, just provide a pinch crease right in the middle, and then open that up and fold the top edge to that point. Now we'll go ahead and fold the paper in half on its existing crease so that this band is on the outside of the paper. And you are going to want to fold from this point here to this point here. And the way I like to do that is I begin to swing my paper open right until the point where it catches on this corner down here. That's where I'm looking, and I can kind of tack that in place once I'm happy with its placement. And then I swing this into alignment on the other corner, and I can kind of tack that into place as well. And then with both of those corners in their proper positions, I just fold out from the center. And having done that, I'll flip the paper over and fold the other side to match the first side. So I'm going from this corner to that corner, And conveniently, I can now use this corner as a reference, landing it on the other side. Okay, and now it's important to note that this is the corner here where the two creases you just made converge. So, with the paper in this orientation and that corner on my left, I'm folding this edge here to this edge right here. And you'll notice this isn't going to lie flat over here as I do this, so it's a little bit tricky. But try to control all your layers, and you're landing this edge on that crease, and make sure the new crease you make goes right through this other corner and then all the way into the pocket, which I'll be working on in just a second. Okay, and you can see this crease goes all the way into that pocket. And now I'm going to lie this flat. And I'm folding this back just far enough to reveal the edge, this edge right here, below it. And my crease should go from this point here right to this point of the crease we just made. I'm going to actually rotate the paper so I can see that edge without getting my head in the way of the camera. So you can see this crease here is right on top of that edge and goes right to that point. And once I've done that, I'll flip the paper over. And now this point where the creases are converging is on the right, and I'm folding this edge here to this left edge there. And again, this is not going to lie flat. My new crease should go right through this corner here. And then it should go all the way into this pocket. So you see the crease going all the way into the pocket. You can lay it flat again. And now I want to fold this to reveal just the layer below it, or the layer just below it. And my crease is going right to this point here. And I'm only creasing far enough to meet this point right here. Okay? So now, you'll notice we can kind of pull this. I'm just holding this so I'm looking into this kind of spine of the paper or pocket or whatever. We can pull down on both this crease and the crease on the other side at the same time, and make sure your kind of layers behind are flaring in opposite directions as they are here. You'll notice sometimes it gets caught and they flare in the same direction. And you can see there it's both of the layers are caught together going in the same direction. Make sure that they're going in opposite directions. And then you can kind of, I'm reaching behind and pulling these. Set the paper like this and pull this point down and land it right along this edge here. And once you do that, you can flatten those right there, these layers, and then push this flat as well, just like that, and flatten these layers. Okay, so the paper should look like this. We're now ready to flip this over, and we can stand this whole section vertically. And I'm going to squash fold this whole flap here. And as I do this, I want to make sure that I hold these two, these are going to become the prongs of the plane, hold these 2 points together so that when I land this on the gap between them, I'm landing it right at the center of the plane. And then I flatten this out. And your plane should look like this. And I'm sorry to say, now we need to open it back up almost all the way, unfolding it. I'm reaching behind here and grabbing even that layer. And I'm looking at it from this side here. So this is my bottom side, and the way we're going to identify that is it's important for you to see this section, or actually this whole crease, this horizontal crease, is a valley fold. So make sure you're looking at your paper from an orientation where that is the case. But we want to keep this central section a valley fold, but as soon as we get left of these diagonal creases here, this section needs to be a mountain fold. So I'm kind of reaching behind the paper and starting to push it into that orientation. And likewise, this diagonal crease that mirrors this one needs to be a mountain fold as well. And also this crease here, which is a mountain fold, needs to become a valley fold. So you see you've got a set of 3 creases on the side. We're looking at the innermost one of those. That becomes a valley fold. Okay, so this section's mountain, that section's mountain, this is valley. And I'm doing the same thing over on this side. And I can kind of work on this diagonal crease at the same time that I'm kind of bending this. And then make sure you reverse this crease as well. Okay, and once we've done all that, we can then make sure you're enforcing, sorry, I'm making sure my paper's doing it. We're going to be folding on these creases, and basically I'm gathering the paper. Make sure that this is a mountain. It's kind of fighting against me, and collapsing it by pulling this section in, just like so. And you can see we've got all this extra paper. That's okay. We're going to fold, assuming you've got it like this. Fan it open. We can just fold this in half, set it aside, and we can refold the creases. Again, looks like this, folding in half. Fold along that crease. Fold along that crease. You're looking at it from this orientation, and you can just do the pulling this open and forward again, just like so. And I know that was a little confusing, lots of flipping the paper over, but hopefully you were able to kind of collapse the paper into this orientation. And this side looks different than it did before. This side should look just like it did before. Okay, and with this side up, we're going to fold from this point here to this point right here, just opening up that layer. And we'll do the same thing on this side. And notice this layer here does not land on that edge behind it. Okay, I'll flip the paper over, and now I'm going to fold this edge here. I'm kind of grabbing these two layers together. This edge here is going to fold to the center, and to do that I have to fold it into this pocket. Try to be really accurate as you do this. And once you do one side, of course, we're going to do the other side as well. So grabbing these two layers together, I like to roll it kind of at the point where that crease is going to end up on the back edge of these layers. Helps me fold cleanly here. I'm just rolling it in preparation for that crease. and your paper should look like this. Now we'll flip it over. I'm going to fold this whole thing to the left. And now I want to fold this edge here to the center as well. And you'll notice this won't lie flat. There's going to be a pocket at the back edge. And in a moment, I'm going to be folding all the way into the pocket, but not flattening the pocket. So as I bring this edge here to the center, I can create a crease that goes all the way into that pocket. And now we are ready to flatten the pocket. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to hold the paper just like this. I want to flip it over and look for this point here where these two edges are converging. I'm going to kind of mark that with my thumb. And looking at the edge, I'm going to line up my finger at the same point on the opposite side of the paper. That point is my front reference crease. And my back reference crease is right where this crease is meeting in the point of the pocket and the back edge of the plane. So I'm folding right from this point here into that back point of the pocket. Try to make this a straight line. It's a little tricky because it's such a shallow angle, but your plane will be cleaner if you can make this a really straight crease. And you'll notice your pocket will kind of pucker and bulge. You can kind of flatten that out once you've made your crease. Okay, and so it should look like this. And once you do one side, you can do the other as well. So we're going to fold this edge here into the center. Creasing all the way into the back of that pocket. And now, because I've done the one side, I can put that forward and kind of book match my two sides like this. Set it down and fold this to land right on this edge here that I've already got. Okay, so when we open it up, it'll look like that, or if you open all the layers, it'll look like this. But now, we actually want to unfold, and you can see we've got the two creases we just made here. We're actually going to need to reverse both of those creases. So, this is a mountain fold here. Sorry, I'm doing lots of rotating. Let's just look at this. This top crease here is a mountain fold. I'm going to start by reversing that and just folding it in the opposite direction to make it a valley fold. And then, just holding it like this, you can see this other crease here runs right along this edge. And basically, I'm just going to want to crease. I'm pulling this layer in, and I can reverse that just by doing that. And the only tricky part is when you get back towards the back, getting your crease to go right back to this edge as you reverse it's a little tricky. But as long as you can make that a nice, clean, straight line all the way to the back edge, and then we've already reversed this crease right here so you can lay it down nice and neatly now. So we just brought those layers to kind of the other side of the paper. So I'm going to unfold them again, flip this over, and we can look at them. I want to reverse this crease here. Just like so. And now I'll unfold that. I want to fold this whole thing in right along that top edge, folding into center. And it's this section right back here that's the trickiest to manage, but you should just fold right along your existing crease to that back edge and just work it until you can reverse it all the way to that back corner, and then pull this open. Like so. Okay, and your plane, well, we'll swing that open in the opposite direction. Your plane should look like this. So now I'm going to go ahead and just fold this little edge here, this raw edge, over the edge that's on the layer on top. Just like so. Do the same thing on the other side. And now we'll open that up. Fold this short little edge here to that same top edge. You're just making a tiny little triangle and leaving a millimeter gap between the edge and that top layer. Just a tiny little gap. And then you fold in on either side again. Like so. And now we're on to, sadly, what might be the most complicated step of this whole plane. And we're going to grab this and pull this right along this top edge. This isn't the most complicated step, but we're almost there. But basically, we're standing this whole flap in preparation. And we're going to do a complicated fold here. Basically, I'm pulling these sides open and pushing on this at the same time. And I want you to watch as I do this. This is something that's hard to explain as I'm doing it, but you'll get to see how I've done it, and then I'll explain exactly what I did. So I'm pulling this open and kind of beginning to squash by pushing down on that side. Maintaining a lot of tension outwardly as you do this can help. And I want to squash this. There are a lot of ways you could squash this, but I want to create an edge on this bubbled layer that lands right along my center crease. And doing that's tricky, but that means you're taking most of the slack of the paper this direction. And you're kind of just roughly placing it. And as you pull this pocket wider and wider, you'll be able to more precisely identify where your edges are going to land. And it can get very wrinkled if you start moving it outward too late. So start early by pulling it toward the right, and then just finally identify right where that edge is going to land. And you can flatten everything like this. I know that's tricky. I hope you can repeat it. That's why I said this plane was difficult, or one of the reasons. You've experienced some of the reasons already. Okay, so having done that on one side, I'll do it again on the left side. Prepping the layer like this, standing it, and I'm pulling it, tapping down on this, making sure I'm opening all the way to that top point, and its outward tension really helps prevent any wrinkling. And then you just slowly work it, define right where that edge is going to land. When you're happy with it, you can flatten the paper. Just like so. Okay, so it should look like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and fold this edge here right to that edge. Leave just a tiny little gap. And then I'll fold all of this to the left from this point here up to the nose, and there are some thicker layers that will make that feel like a pretty natural breaking point. And some of this will cross the center, don't worry too much about that right now. And we're going to now take this section here and fold it right along this edge here. And you'll see we've got this crease that lands almost on the center crease. We've got a crease right next to it. I want to land this crease here on this crease, and it should go, a crease I make should go all the way to the front point and bisect these two creases. So I'm just pulling this open right from the center point at the top. And you'll see the new crease I made is right between this crease and this crease, running all the way to the nose. Okay, and now I'm going to open this so it goes behind. These layers here go behind. And open this up. And I want to fold this little section here right around that edge. And now, when I pull this, I'll let that layer release. When I pull this into this position, I want you to notice we've got a portion that crosses the center, and we're going to be folding that portion that crosses the center into, you can see we've got a bunch of pockets here. I want to find the pocket that's all the way on the inside, right before the layer, between the layer that's kind of the inside edge of that prong and the gap between it. So that's my pocket. And I'm folding all these layers into that pocket. So I'm going to start just by kind of making a pinch right here at this back edge on the center crease. And that's going to help make it a little easier as I work to roll this all in to that pocket. And this new edge I'm making should land right on the edge, along the edge of layers that already exist. And you can see I'm just tucking all that in to that pocket, and then I can close that pocket up. And you can even work to tidy that up afterwards too if you don't feel like you got a great fold there. And now we've got all of this to work with. And we're just going to keep working on this one side until we get it to completion. And then we'll do all the same steps on the other side. So I'm just going to fold this right like so, and I'm pulling it nice and tightly. And I want you to notice we've got this point here where our two prongs kind of come to a point where they're hidden by a layer that's on top of them. And that point where the edge of the prong meets this layer is going to be a reference point. I'm pulling this from right this corner, and I'm just revealing that reference point. Try not to tear your paper as you do that. But the new edge I just made lands right on that reference point I was talking about. And I can open this up and reverse the crease I just made. So now when I pull this over, I can actually tuck this layer through under the other prong, just like so. And when I flip the paper over, I've got just this little extra bit, and I can kind of pull it right over that edge, place my crease, and now I'm just tucking that little tab into the same pocket I tucked my other layers into earlier. And I pull that as tightly as I can and just tuck it in as far as it will go and fold it like so. And so there you go. We just have to repeat all of that on the other side once again. So we'll flip it over. And I'm going to fold this edge here to this edge, leaving just a tiny little gap. And I'll fold this whole thing right from this edge to that point up there. It's kind of a natural breaking point for it. I'm just pulling these layers over like so. Part of it will cross the center, that's fine. And then I'm folding these layers along that same point, looking for this crease that almost lands on the center crease and this crease here. I'm then landing this crease on that crease all the way up to that front point. I'll open these layers, allowing those to go behind. Open that layer, and now I'm folding this little section right here over that top edge. And I'll close that up, allowing my layers to release again. And I want to fold the section that crosses the center into that same pocket. This pocket right here, the innermost pocket closest to your center crease. And so to start that, I'm going to just place a little pinch crease right here. That makes it easier to start rolling right over this edge. And again, I'm tucking into that pocket, as you can see. Try to do it tidily all the way up to the front. And now I'll flip my paper over and fold this layer in that direction, pulling it as tight as it can go. And I'm just going to reveal this point. So I'm folding from this point here, revealing that point. That's how I'm determining the slope of this next crease. And once I do that, I'll then open that up and reverse the crease I just made. And now I can wrap this through that prong there. Pull it nice and tight. Flip it over. Pull this around that edge. And now I'm ready to just tuck this all the way in as far as it will go. And you can see it even doubles over a little bit. Just like that. And you're just pulling it right along that inner edge and tucking it as tightly as you can. Then closing everything up. And there you go. So now your plane looks like this, and we are almost done. We've got this edge right here, and actually I've got a tension on this that I don't usually get, but that's no big deal. We've got this edge right here, and I'm going to invite you to imagine dividing this angle, the angle between this edge right here and this top edge, into 3 equal parts. And I didn't do a great job of that. That's okay. I want you to place your crease not on this first line, but just a little above it, so that your slope is more like this, and it meets the center not all the way up a third, but close to it. And your crease should go to this point right here. And once you do one side, you can kind of just make your other crease meet that at the center. And see, I've got 2 creases meeting at the center. Now when I close this up, that elbow can swing forward. That's exactly what we want. And while I have the paper in this position, I'm going to fold my wing down, and I'm just revealing the layer behind it. So I'll show you exactly what I mean. So I'm folding this down right along this edge here. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, we can open those back up. When you close it up, make sure this swings forward, and now you're folding this top edge here to your bottom edge, and it's a little tricky up at the front, so don't worry if your prongs aren't super tidy at first. We're going to work to kind of rectify that, and you can imagine this edge here landing along that edge too. But the layers at the front are really thick, so you're going to have to really work that into shape. And you can even kind of take both hands just on one little prong and work that way. I like to use my fingernail to kind of crease right to the point, and then kind of just pinch to double it over. And you can shape your prongs nicely, kind of working it in that way. And even if it's not perfect when you've done one, I'll show you a way in just a second to work on it more once you've done both sides. So having done one side, I'll release the tension there and fold my other side in the same way. I'm just kind of guiding it toward the prong, but not worried about it being perfect yet. I'm going to land this edge on that bottom edge, and this edge here, I've got a little extra flap that I don't usually get so much of. I'm landing this edge here on that edge. Okay, and now again I want to work on trying to perfect this prong, using my thumb to push in and my thumb and forefinger of my other hand to kind of pinch. You can get that nice and close. And then once you've done both sides, you can kind of stand your fuselage, your keel of the plane, like this, and bend either way, pinching it all together, running your fingers right along it, making it nice and tidy in this manner. And now we are on to just folding the winglets. So I'm going to fold parallel to the center crease. Let me make the winglet and then I'll explain exactly what I've done with it. So my crease is parallel to the center crease, and I'm trying to land this edge here right on that little corner of this top layer, like so. And once I do one side, I'll fold it in half like this and just book match it. And now we are ready to open this all up. And from the back, you want to have a little dihedral in this central section and then fold down on these outer sections so that they have anhedral, and then your outermost fins should be perpendicular to the ground, you know, just pointing straight down. You may find that you need a little up elevator with this, but honestly, it might fly just perfectly fine without that. So thank you so much for watching, and good luck flying your plane.